Hi everyone, this is Jim. In this video I wanted to take a look at one of the games of Sam Shankland. So Sam is a young US Grandmaster. He's 24 years old, and even at 24 he's the 7th ranked player in the US, so a very strong young Grandmaster. He has the white pieces here, and his opponent is Belsar Valencia, who is from the Philippines originally, but has lived in Edmonton for the last 6 years and is the current Edmonton city champion, so a local hero. Oh, so actually, when I did the first video and I said there were 6 invited grandmasters and four local players, I got that wrong because I counted Belsar as one of the invited outsiders, but actually he's a local player. I mean, he still carries the Philippines as his FIDE affiliation, but since he's been in Canada for 6 years, I think that counts as Canadian. So let's see, and Belsar is a FIDE Master elect, which means he's not quite a FIDE Master. He's met all the requirements, and it's just a matter of the formalities. I think he'll become a FIDE Master at the next general board meeting of the society there, the FIDE. So let's get the game going. Shankland started off with d4. Belsar played knight to f6, c4, and g6. So preparing to play a Grinfeld or a King's Indian, perhaps. Knight to c3. And now bishop to g7 and e4, allowing e4. And so this is definitely a King's Indian at this point. And after a few moves, we get the classical variation, knight f3, castles, bishop e2. That's the key move of the classical variation against the King's Indian, and e5, a characteristic move of the King's Indian. So what we're going for from this, there's a number of different lines from here, but the line that Belsar selects is known as the Mar del Plata variation. After white castles, black plays knight c6, provoking this pawn to come forward, and then rerouting over here to the king side via knight e7. So this Mar del Plata variation was introduced around 1950 in the tournament in Mar del Plata, and had an immediate impact on tournament chess. It showed up in the Zurich tournament in 1953 and has been played off and on ever since at the top levels. I think Hikaru Nakamura is the grandmaster who plays it most often with the black pieces, and it's a dangerous weapon. If you look at a position like this on the chess engine always favors white. I guess the engine likes to have all of this space. But there is this dangerous attack that black gets going on the king side, so sometimes the engine's evaluation is not always correct. It sometimes underestimates the strength of the attack. Anyway, there's 3 main replies here. The bayonet attack with b4 is probably the main move these days. And then there's the 2 knight moves, knight d2 and knight to e1, which is how they used to play it when this variation was first being explored. And that's one of those moves that Sam Shankland chooses in this position. He goes knight e1. It's a pretty logical move. It gets the knight out of the way of the f-pawn, so this pawn can come forward. Basically, white already understands that black's play is to move this knight out of the way and push the f-pawn forward, and then usually move the knight back, and then keep pushing those pawns forward on the king side. So getting the knight out of the way prepares this pawn push to f3, and at the same time, this to help defend the center. And at the same time, this knight can route around this way to d3 and help support these pawns pushing on the queen side. So the battle lines are being drawn. Black is going to attack on the king side, and white is going to attack on the queen side. And it's often just a race almost to see who gets there first. One key point is that, of course, if black wins the race, black mates white. So black can afford to give away some material on the queen side if he succeeds in mating. Whereas a white's attack on the queen side is basically gaining material and positional advantages on the queen side. So anyway, knight d7 was played here, preparing that f4 move. Bishop to e3, f5, preparing f5, yeah. Now f3 defending, and f4 pushing all the way forward, not opening up the center, but closing the center, and with the intent to take away space from white's pieces over here on the king side, and then push these 2 pawns, the g and the h pawn, forward to try and open up lines. The bishop drops back to f2, staying over here on this side of the board to help defend, and h5 was played here. So h5 is a bit of a rare move here. The main move is g5, and that's pretty logical move. Although there's nothing really wrong with h5, it's just interesting. It's not the main move there, and perhaps Belsar was trying something different in order to get Sam out of his opening book, or perhaps it's a pet line he plays with the early h5. In either case, it's an okay move. But in a few moves, let's see, rook c1 was played, and then a6. In a few moves, black seems to get in some trouble, and so maybe this is the first place where you could start to question what black is doing. The main move here, once again, is g5, by the way, getting those pawns rolling. So, but a6 is with the idea of slowing down some of white's play on the queen side. For example, it prevents this knight from hopping into b5, which is often an idea. The knight on b5 will put more pressure on the d6 pawn when the c pawn comes forward. So it just cuts that idea right out. And now this knight routes around to d3, so it's started its journey here, and it's just making its way over to the queen side. And this journey will continue in the game. Kind of fun to keep an eye on that knight. And now b6, a second move on the queen side. So black has played two moves to slow down the queen side, and that might just be too much because white's queen side play develops very quickly. And now after b4, it's kind of now or never. Black turns his attention back to the king side. He's done as much as he wants to do on the queen side, trying to slow this down, and he's going to focus on the attack for a while. But c5 is played, and things are starting to happen over here. Knight f6 still, aiming at the king side, and then the exchange occurs. C takes b6, c takes b6, and followed up by b5. So very vigorous play from Sam Shankland, and it's very important. I mean, this whole position is basically a big race, and whoever gets there the first with the most, I guess, is going to win. So you have no time to play lazy moves. You've got to play the most active move all the time here. So black responds with a5, trying to keep the position closed, and now knight a4, targeting the b6 pawn. And this pawn is actually quite important because it holds up this pawn, which is close to close to the end zone there. It's so that's a kind of a key pawn over here if black wants to try and hold the queen side together so that he has time to get a king side attack going. So rook to b8, and then knight d to b2. So this knight is continuing its journey. And there's a big threat here. There's two pieces already targeting the b6 pawn, and this knight is ready to hop into c4. And so bishop d7 was played, perhaps with the idea of knight to c8 to add an extra defender to the c pawn, or the b pawn there. But, well, this is maybe the last chance that black had to try and do something on the king side. Or maybe it's too late already. Anyway, I looked at a few alternatives here. Black could just push on with g4 here and sort of ignore the queen side. And then this knight comes up to c4, going to win that pawn, and there's no way to save that pawn. Basically, the idea is black gives up that pawn and starts pushing. So one idea here is to just keep pushing and maybe get this big pawn wedge here. And sometimes if this pawn comes to h3, this bishop can sacrifice itself on h3 to open up some lines. So in this position, though, white can really just play bishop takes b6. It gains a tempo, chases the queen to this square, and then knight takes a5. And the play over here just seems to be a little bit too slow. White has succeeded in crashing through first, and the knight can even, the rook can even penetrate to the 7th rank and start harassing the king from this angle. So we can see that in this line, black's attack is too slow. There's another way to try this after, in this position. First going with g4, knight c4. Instead of playing h4 first, you could try taking first. Takes, and taking on f3, opens up the g file and opens up this great square for the bishop. And this looks good at first. I mean, that rook is almost trapped, or maybe it's getting chased away. But there's a nice answer here, once again, having to do with the weakness of the b6 pawn. So bishop takes b6, hitting the queen, and then the rook can lift to f2. So the rook gets out of trouble and helps defend white along the second rank. And, there's even ideas if there's time. Notice the queen has no great entry squares at the moment. There might be time to move the king out of the way and bring the queen or the rook over here to the g file and just get some pressure in this direction against black's king. In any case, black's queen side is also falling apart. So if there's no winning attack against white's king, then white is going to win this game. So anyway, that's why Belsar played bishop d7. It seems like there was just never an opportunity to get that attack going against the king. And now here's a chance for you to play Guess the Move. So Sam plays maybe a slightly surprising move here, but it's one of those moves, it's not something you really calculate. It's one you play more on intuition. And why don't you pause the video here and see if you can find the move that Sam Shankland played right here. Okay, he wanted to get some more pressure on this pawn in the most direct way, and he played the move rook to c6, just offering the exchange sacrifice. And now there's no defense for this pawn. It's between there'll be 4 pieces attacking it between this bishop, the 2 knights, and the rook. So pretty much that has to be taken. For example, if you tried knight c8 to defend, just knight c4, and you're overwhelming the defenses. So you might as well take that exchange, grab the material if you're black here, and hope to survive what happens next. So let's see, Belsar played knight takes c6. Bishop takes c6 could also have been played, but with a similar kind of result. What's interesting here is that after bishop takes c6, also in the game, the best move is to take with the d pawn. It's a little bit counterintuitive. Normally you want to take towards the center. But in this case, you don't mind the center opening up, and you're more interested in destroying the queen side here. And this passed pawn is a deadly threat in either case. Let's go back to the game. In the game, Belsar took with the knight. Sam took with the pawn, the d pawn again, and the bishop relocates here to e6. So that's probably Belsar's idea, is try to get this bishop on a good diagonal, try and activate his pieces. So now, the material is even. Black is just a pawn up, but white has this huge space advantage, and the kingside attack is still not materializing. But if black can survive what white is trying over here on the king side, on the queen side rather, if black can just survive this, then in the endgame black will be up material. So it seems like there ought to be some chances for black here. But well, I guess Sam never gives him a break. He plays bishop c4 first to try and neutralize this strong piece. Belsar pushes on with d5. He needs a little more space for his pieces here, so he's trying to get some that way. And so we get this exchange. And then rather than grabbing the pawn right away, Sam plays queen to b3. Rather than trading bishops right away, Sam played queen to b3, so threatening to take that bishop. The bishop dropped back to f7. And there was a danger, by the way, of the bishop getting pinned. So the bishop needed to get away from that pin. It wasn't in danger of being taken immediately. So anyway, bishop dropped back to f7. Sam exchanges off that piece, not afraid of a little simplification. He's still down the exchange, but he has quite a lot of force. He has a queen, a rook, and 3 minor pieces against a queen, 2 rooks, and 2 minor pieces. And other than that, the material is even. His big asset is really the activity of his pieces and the advanced pawns on the queen side, where it's difficult for black to organize any kind of defense with all the space that white has gotten over here. Let's see. He plays rook d1 now, hitting the queen. The queen goes over to e7, defending against the 7th rank, trying to defend along the 7th rank. And now knight to c4. So now 3 pieces are coordinating on this pawn on b6, and there's just no saving it. In fact, white could have already grabbed the pawn here. It's kind of interesting. It's interesting that Sam didn't play that. But, well, it's often the case that if there's no way to defend this pawn, then there's no hurry to take it, and you might as well take it in the way that's most convenient to you. So knight to c4 gets this piece in the game. And by the way, notice the journey that knight took. It started over here on f3, went to e1, to d3, to b2, and now to c4. So that's it's done a nice little trip over to the queen side. This knight drops back to e8, trying to defend this advance of the pawn here. The rook goes all the way to d7, supported by the mighty c-pawn. The queen has to get out of the way. Queen goes to e6. And now the bishop takes on b6, finally, crashing through. Let's see, the king runs to h8. I'm not sure exactly what the idea is here. Perhaps to give some space to the pieces over there, maybe to get off this diagonal in case things open up along here. Anyway, king went to h8, and now knight takes a5, and both pawns are gone on the queen side, and still there's no attack brewing over here against white's king. And notice how white is totally dominating the board, even though white is technically down material. It's just that the great activity of his pieces and the space on the queen side. Okay, so, and also notice that he's not afraid of the queen trade. He goes right into an endgame with, oh, he took back with the knight, sorry. He goes right into this endgame. And still the exchange down, but with the advantage of 2 pawns. He has 2 extra pawns for the exchange, and that's enough to win in this position. Let's see. Belsar tries rook to f6. This knight comes in to c5 now. Bishop to f8 to try and reorganize the pieces a little bit. Take a look at that knight, maybe get some trades going. This knight hops over to e4, hitting the rook. The rook goes to g6, still maybe with some faint hopes of lining up over here against the king. And the rook drops, oh, the rook goes forward to d8, provoking some more trades. And after rook takes d8, bishop takes d8, Belsar plays knight to d6, trying to bring the knight over here to defend against that advancing pawn. But after c7, he resigns. Basically, there's no way to stop that pawn from queening. The big threat here is just to trade off that knight and then push the pawn forward. The knight is blocking the rook from coming over and defending the back rank. The bishop can't defend that square. And if the knight goes back, then this pawn can just be pushed forward. So it's just not, it is not working for... It is not working for black in this position at all. It's a complete win. And also, let's see, the bishop could also come up here to this 6th rank to block this rook from coming across. So lots of things going on here, but no defense for black. And Belsar resigned. So very nice display from Sam Shankland. He really had control of this game almost from the start. And the minor mistakes that Belsar may have made, are pretty small to see, but he was hard to see, but he was still somehow able to take advantage of them in a pretty dramatic fashion. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.